Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the discussion. As you all may know, there's a flood that hit the East Coast area recently, right? So, due to the storm starting to clear up, it has opened a window of opportunity to send help to the victims. And so, the head of our department wants to volunteer and lead the flood relief team. Our team must conduct a proper planning before we can go there. So let's discuss a bit about the issues that we might face. So do you guys have like any ideas of the things that we might face when we go there?
I think one of our issue is finding a supplier, as finding the right supplier is kind of burdensome. Hence, we need to find a supplier that is willing to join us and match the quality that we need, as well as being urgent, because people's lives are at a high risk right now, and so we cannot wait any longer. So maybe we could find an actual partner as our supplier, such as Mercy Malaysia. So what do you guys think about that?
Yes, I agree with your saying that we need to find someone that's willing to help. We need to find someone that can prepare quality service or products. Okay, and then we need someone that can work fast and because we need to yes. But may I know if you guys can provide any more information about Mercy?
This
So
is
yeah,
because Mercy Malaysia, the group consists of doctors, nurses, dentists, and etc. So they only provide medical assistance, and we're gonna need some medical experts' opinion. So because the flood victim is going to need some medical help, as they will definitely have an issue with the water quality and catching cold, since some people, their immune system could not withstand the cold weather and will get sick easily. So what do you guys think about that?
yeah, I agree. From what I know, Mercy Malaysia is they're an international non-profit organization that focus on medical relief or sustainable health, just related into health when it comes to like development and risk reduction activities for vulnerable people. They also have like an emergency response plan. So when it comes to like natural disasters, for example, like our in our case it's the flood. They
Yes.
go on using the total disaster risk management approach. So they apply disaster management to all the phases, so which includes their emergency response. Then they also provide the helping the communities return to their daily life, which is the recovery or rehabilitation for them. And then they also add to the prevention or mitigation for natural disaster as well. So for example, when they want to prevent the damage getting more and more dangerous for the victims when a disaster strikes. I think
Mhm.
they also provide information. They're providing information to the victims usually, so they give information. They give education towards their the victims, and
Like
helps give information.
prevention,
Yeah, prevention. So
safety
they're
tips
more
and
prepared
stuff.
when it comes to another case of like the floods itself. Yeah. So
Okay.
I think I
Yes.
agree that Mercy Malaysia might be a very good partner for our project. So yeah, I think we should go with Mercy Malaysia as well.
Another issue that I think that is relevant is transportation issues because as you guys may know, we have muddy flooded roads, slightly flooded roads with like all the puddles around. That might make it hard for regular vehicles to drive around. So maybe we need to use heavy duty vehicles like four-wheel drives. So I think we should prepare Ford Ranger Raptors to help with this.
Yeah, as far as I know, the East Coast area is more of a foresty area, more of like
Mm.
it's more like earth, more uh, what's it called? It's more
Not too.
dirt based terrain like that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
True.
it's gonna
Yes,
get
yes,
a
yes.
lot more muddy for the affected flood areas. So I agree, we should use 4x4s, heavy duty vehicles that can withstand those harsh terrain. But I think, especially when it comes to the forest, right? You can't really go through the forest by using the 4x4s, like for example, just in case we cannot go through the flooded areas. So one extra idea that I have is we should provide some kind of aerial support. So
Oh.
I
Mm.
think one of the best idea is that we use helicopters. So might be we can have a collaboration with the military in the area to provide with the helicopters to, because it reaches the affected area much quicker, right, when it compares to
Yes, yes,
the four
yes.
by fours or speedboats in that matter, because they just go through the air. But
Yeah.
I
True.
think we also need to consider the landing area, because maybe in the area around the flood affected areas we need to find specific landing areas for that
Mm.
helicopters. I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think?
I agree with Irsyad with the 4x4 cars. And also, I agree with Iqbal because the military helicopter will actually eventually come and save the flood victim, as this is an instruction from the government. So I would have another suggestion, which is renting private helicopters, since we have no financial problems, as the company will back us up if we're short of money. So with this private helicopter, it could help us a lot in spotting any flood victim that might be in need of rescue immediately. So with this, also with these private helicopters, maybe it's easier transportation of food, or maybe like transfer the flood victim to a safer place or the evacuation site. And like as what Iqbal said, we need to consider where to land the helicopter, like the place to land that helicopter. So yeah.
Okay, so you guys both mentioned using helicopters, right? Okay, so yes, that's a very good idea. The helicopter can provide a surveillance from the air, and then it can communicate with us. Hey, there's a victim over here, and then this victim looks okay. So maybe they can last a few, like a few days. Okay, so you guys should come over here and help them out. Yes, they that can help with us knowing the locations of some victims. However, for like more urgent victims, yes, maybe we can use it for rescue. Like immediately use the helicopter to help them. I agree with the use of helicopters. That's a very good idea. Okay. Is there any more issues that we need to look to look forward? Not look
Another
forward. I will look for.
Another issue that I would say is no reception. Maybe this is due to the electricity being shut off for safety reasons, like it's to prevent any electric shock. So there will not be any reception or like cellular network. Like basically, we cannot call anyone if we're in need of help, like the flood victim. So what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, so there probably won't be any internet, and then it will be hard to use those like radio to communicate, right? So
Yes.
yeah, maybe we can use walkie talkies so that the group members can communicate with each other better and like coordinate that way.
I agree with you, Ishart, because walkie-talkie could be carried anywhere. Like it's flexible to communicate with the team. But however, like there's some problems where for the team that is like in a more distant area, like further away, it could be a problem as walkie-talkie has like a distant limit.
Oh,
So it will be hard to communicate with
then
just
how we
walkie-talkie.
should solve this problem?
Yeah.
One idea, because walkie-talkie or just mobile phones in general, they use what we call as a terrestrial communication. So they use the
Oh, the
the
tower.
signal towers, or maybe for example like fiber optics, more like wires and cables, right? But as you mentioned, the most of these things when it comes to flood, they usually is shut off. Right? So there's no electricity running. There's no signal. There's no reception in those areas.
Mhm.
So one idea for communication between distant regions, because as Erika said, the walkie-talkie has a distant limit, right? So it can only cover a
Yeah.
localized area. So one idea that I usually use when I go, traveling to the mountains where there's no receptions is that me and my team, they usually bring what we call a satellite phone. So
Oh,
this satellite phone, it uses satellite communication. So as long as you have an open area above your head or where your device is, the signal can transmit through the satellites in the space. It might take a bit longer than the usual mobile phone or the usual walkie-talkies, but it can connect to anywhere in the world as long as you have nothing blocking above your head. So you can't really use it like
Ooh.
when you're inside the house or maybe like in a cave system. You cannot do that. But when you have like an open area, it's basically usually flood affected areas. They're just
yeah,
affecting
they
a
don't.
neighborhood,
Yeah.
right? They're not really affecting things above your head. So yeah, I think satellite phones might be useful to communicate between larger distant members. I think that's a good idea.
So yeah, maybe we can use both. So walkie-talkies for those smaller groups, and then
Yes.
between groups that are like, let's say, leader of group A and then leader of group B needs to communicate with each other. Yes, maybe we can use satellite phones. So satellite phones directly connect to the satellite like that.
Yeah. So it's basically has some kind of framework that allows the whoever uses the satellite phones to connect with the satellite to connect to another satellite phone
I see.
somewhere.
Alright, so that's a good suggestion for the network issues. Is there any more issues that we can add?
I think for me, that's all the issues that we might face during the flood relief program.
Yeah, I believe so. Maybe we need further discussion in another time if there is some issues that we need to talk about later on.
We
But for
can.
now, I think that should cover all the main issues that we have to to plan for this event. So yeah.
Okay. So because we have already like a rough plan of like the like we mentioned, we need to use helicopters, we need to use 4WDs, and then we can like find partners and stuff like that. So we have a rough plan, right? So let's start with like delegating tasks so that everyone can say manage the team better, manage the situation better. So we should suggest teams that would be created, and then mention what teams that you want to lead. I'll mention that Mercy will probably be leading the health team. Okay, so the health team would be covering the victims. What do you call it? Health condition, like Erika said, the colds, right? And then they can handle cleanliness of the area. So let's say like the shelter, I mean the cleaners of the shelter, like they would probably be mostly situated in the shelter, and then some will follow the others to help find victims and like give first aid if the victim is heavily wounded and stuff. Okay, what other teams do you guys want to? Yes.
For me, I would suggest a search and rescue team, and I can be the leader for that team. So for this search and rescue team, maybe they are responsible for locating any flood victims and then rescuing them and transporting them to a flood evacuation site. So this team will need to be working together and communicating with the military team to save more lives. So yeah.
Okay, that's a good suggestion. Uh, for me, I think the search and rescue team will need to work with military, yes, and then they also need to work with the health team. So, because you're the what do you call it, the flagship team, like the front end. So yes, you guys need to really work together and help the victims. Yeah. For me, I'll probably go with leading the donation team, where we'll collect clothing from donation boxes, maybe food, and then we'll make like an advertisement or like a notice so to announce that hey, we're helping out the flood victims in the East Coast area, right? And then if you guys would be so kind to help donate food or donate money, here's the number, you can contact us. So I think I'll handle that team.
So pretty much for the donation collection and also the management of like all the things that has been donated from the donators, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
So you mentioned just now about the advertisement, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's a good idea that we form a documentation team. But I think they can also act as a role in finding something that I did mention earlier, which is finding media partners that can help us spread the information about our program so that we can have more intakes on especially the nation, but also just
Yes.
spreading the awareness that we are going over there to help the people there because of how bad the condition is over there, and it's such a critical and an emergency situation. So I think that's a good one. Other than that, though, the documentation team, of course, as the name is, we need to keep track of the activities that we've done over there. One is of course to report to the company about our program. That's number one. But
Yes.
also just keeping keeping a record of the program itself. It might just be a one big team, sort of, but it's gonna have to go to all the regions to each regions has one local team from the documentation. The other one would be some of the members of the documentation team could also go with the military because they'll be the one in the front line with the search and rescue team by Erica. So I think that's also another good one. They could also help a little bit with the health team to provide the information about the current
Yeah.
condition, or maybe like how many people are coming in from the search and rescue team. They could also be like the communications team of sorts, something like that. But yeah, I think that's a good idea, and I'll of course be happily to lead that team as well.
So one thing that I may add, maybe the documentation team could also do like the pre-work, like calculating the spendings and make a log of it.
Invoice.
Yeah, the invoice and
Yeah, I
stuff,
can
Yes.
mention that.
so that it can keep track.
Sure, sure, sure.
Okay, so I think that about covers the main task that we already discussed earlier. Is there any more teams that we should create? I don't think so.
I would like to add some for that
Okay.
with based on what Iqbal said about the
Oh, sure.
media partner. So maybe we could actually say that like ways to ways to prevent, not prevent,
Oh,
like
like
ways
safety
when
tips.
safety tips to
Yes,
when there's
yes.
flood, because sometimes in radio they will actually talk about it, talk about these flood safety tips. So
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
yeah.
So pretty much, it will involve. First of all, I think it's radio stations are is pretty good suggestion. Of course, TV stations as well. Um, it's also a good idea maybe to social media as well in some ways, maybe with Mercy Malaysia
Yes.
because they have more coverage, right, when it comes to
Yeah,
the
true.
how
Yeah.
far they can reach their content because they're an international organization. So yeah, also a bit of a collaboration with Mercy Malaysia. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good idea as well. Yeah.
All right. So that about covers it. Before we wrap it up, let's discuss about Plan B in case the storm picks up and the flood worsens, right? So because we might not know what the weather will be like in the future. So I suggest personally we prepare extra flood rescue boats because if the water level rises and prevents us from using any form of like land vehicles, that would be really hard because as you know, as like heavy duty as good as the 4WDs are, they still can't go fully submerged underwater. They're not
Yes.
submarines, right? So yeah, we can use flood rescue boats.
Yeah, that is a good idea. Based from what I know, the terrain there is very, very muddy when it comes after the flooding, right? And as you said, heavy duty vehicles, even though they're created to tackle extreme terrains, uh, from the name itself, they are a pretty heavy vehicle, right? So they cannot travel that fast. That's one thing. They also carry a lot of load. For example, the people, maybe the rescue team, or maybe the resources for the donation victims. Uh, I think we will have to consider speedboats because of course speedboats they just travel above the water. But once again, we also need to maybe have a bit of a collaboration with the military about this situation because they have more understanding about the area. Because we don't know, maybe there's a wave or maybe water level is getting even more higher, and yeah, we have to keep track of those things. And we did mention about helicopter earlier, right?
Yes.
So yeah, helicopters are also risky if there is strong winds over in that affected areas. Um, because helicopter they travel through air, and even though they are the most convenient and the most efficient way of traveling through that area and providing coverage and also providing the eyes in the sky. But if we are giving the risk for the pilots and also the people in the helicopters when there's a super strong wind, that may affect the helicopter in some way. We would rather not do that. We would rather reduce that risk of endangering other people going up in that helicopter to cover more areas. And I agree with what Irsyad said. We should be providing more towards the speedboats. I think that's a good idea to have a plan B, a backup plan for the transportation itself. Yep.
I totally agree with both of you guys. Like, I agree with Irsyad because using land vehicles, it will take a long time to like save emergency victims. So maybe we also have to consider the flood evacuation site, especially in lower areas. This is because if the flood gets worse, the site will eventually get affected. So I suggest that we categorize the evacuation site, maybe by considering the elevation, and be prepared to move the flood victims to other site if the situation worsens. Because flood happens quite frequently in Malaysia, so the government have already like marked several places as the evacuation site as an alternative solution.
Yeah, maybe we can label the evacuation sites by, let's say, this one is higher and this one is lower. Yes,
Yes.
we can make a category like that. So let's say an area that is lower, the evacuation site that is on the lower end might be affected by the flood because the levels rise uncontrollably. Then we can have a prepared plan or like route of which way to go to the higher evacuation sites that are more safe. Yeah, I agree with that.
To add to that, to add to that great idea, we should have one super central application area, which is a bit further than the affected areas, just as a last resort, some sort. So if anything bad happens, that one place would be the last resort for all the flood victims. But we could also, as you mentioned earlier, we have posts, pretty much like several posts going closer and closer towards the affected area. And in case those that is a bit more closer to the flooded area, has a risk of rising water level, then we'll just go to the next post, until if there's really it's a really bad situation in those areas, then of course the final central evacuation area is the best option we have. This is very good for contingency slash backup plans. So okay, so for plan B, other things to mention for the backup plan, I'd say maybe for the donations. Even though we as we mentioned earlier, we're trying to spread the awareness to the media partners, collaborating with Mercy Malaysia to have more global reach. But we don't know how many people are affected by this. So pretty much the victim numbers, we still don't have that statistics yet, or any like approximate measurements or something like that, right? So there might be a risk of not enough donation items for the victims. But I think the donation money, first of all, can be used to cover up for those, for the extra things to to give to the victims. But how do you guys think? What do you guys think? How do we tackle on this situation?
Okay, so since donation team is on my side, right? Because I will lead the donation team. I think you might have a point there. Usually people are kind. People in Malaysia are really kind. They love to donate stuff, right?
Yes.
But we can't guarantee there's enough for everyone. Yes, you're right. Since our company already said that they'll happily provide the funds, then I think we can buy extra rations, like make extra rations, extra food, just in case to send to the shelters, so that the victims can have supplies, right? And then maybe we can buy extra clothing just in case, no? Yeah.
We
Okay,
can
so-
also like cook for them maybe if it's not enough food or what.
yeah.
I think it's a good idea that we also talk about these things with the Mercy Malaysia team, because they have more
We can.
personal connection with the victims. They have
Oh yes.
they directly in contact with the victims, right? Because they provide
Yeah.
the healthcare, which healthcare that also includes their nutrition, of course, from the food, also to keep them warm and safe. We need the clothing. I think that's very important as well. One thing that I forgot to mention actually, about the documentation teams. So I think the documentation teams need to be stationed in all places. So it might be a big team needed for the documentation team, but maybe we don't have enough devices to document that the activities. So I think the collaboration with the media partner earlier, we might need to borrow a few things from those media partners to help provide us with the devices. That might be a bit of an additional idea for the documentation team. So I believe that covers pretty much the plan B for our program, right?
Okay. Before I want to like mention the one before. Okay. So for Mercy, right? They have health experts, right? So I think we can also refer to the health experts on like what kind of food would be very suitable for flood victims. Like maybe they need a specific amount more of, I don't know, vitamin C, extra with vitamin C for combating the cold, right? The sickness. So yes, that will immensely help. Okay, for the one that you mentioned on equipment, like camera equipment, yes, I think we should provide like maybe ask for what do you say, extra equipment, camera equipment for filming, right? And then I think we should also bring extra backup batteries or any power supply like that.
Oh yeah.
So that we don't run out mid recording.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. We need, because sometimes the situation is like very windy, and then we might damage equipment. We might get like lost equipment to the flood, right? So yes, maybe we should prepare some backups for that. Yeah.
Yes.
Especially
So
since the we're trying to outreach to flood areas, right? And water and camera equipment, they don't really work together, right? So yeah, I think
yeah, yeah, that's
that's
what
a
I
good
think.
idea to have a bit more backup for those equipments. Yeah, that's a good idea.
But do we have like a waterproof camera? Um,
There is a few options for like water protection. I think that we'll need to discuss that again later on. Um, Waterproof camera, they usually more on action cameras, right? But action
Yeah,
cameras,
action
they
cameras.
don't really have that high quality or higher resolution output. But yeah, that could be a good idea, especially when you are with the search and rescue team. I think that would be a good idea to have the action camera to provide more personal with the between the rescuer and then
Yeah.
the victims that are being rescued. Yeah, I think that's a good idea for the
One
frontline.
thing I would like to mention, sorry, for cutting you there. One thing that I'd like to mention, maybe specifically, like we can use GoPros and then just attach it to the search and rescue
Yeah.
team so that they won't have their hands obstructed while helping
Oh yeah,
victims.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a good idea. Yep.
Okay. So anything else that you guys want to add?
I think that is all from me so far. Yeah.
I think that's all from me as well.
Alright, so since you all agree that there's nothing else, so that must mean that we have covered everything. So we have covered the plans that the issues that we might face, and then how we would like to tackle the issue. And then we have already separated the teams. So Erica will be leading the search and rescue team. Iqbal will be leading the documentation team. Mercy will lead the health team. Okay, Mercy people. And then for me, I'll lead the donation team, right? uh, yeah, I think that's all that we also made Plan B, right? So
Yes.
I will send the report of our discussion today to our head of department, and I think we can end the meeting here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.